So welcome to the review video about ordering integers and absolute values. So our first problem lists the numbers from least to greatest. Okay, so we've got all kinds of numbers here, but we also have some absolute values. And remember, absolute values are those numbers, or is a distances numbers from zero. So here's our absolute values. So we have to find out what value those truly have before we order them. So the absolute value of -5 is 5 because it is 5 spaces away. And the absolute value from 0. And the absolute value of -10 would be 10 because it's 10 units away from 0. Now I can order these. So least to greatest, double check, make sure I'm doing the correct order. My least value would be 5. So that is the absolute value of -5 because we write it in the original way it's given. I'm going to cross this out because it's done. My next number would be my 7. And after 7 would come 10, but I write that as the absolute value of 10. Oops, there we go, in the original form. And the last one would be 15. That would be the greatest number. Which of the integers has the greatest value? So I have a -35, -44, -48, and -35. One way I can solve this is by drawing a number line, or thinking of a number line, and thinking about where these would be on my number line. So I have, here's a 0, -1, -2, -3. I'm not going to write every single number, but that gets me thinking. So then -4, -5, -6, -7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, -20, -30, -31, -32, -33, -34. Here's my -35. It's the first number I come to. -36, -37 would be there. -38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, -44. And then -48 would be furthest to the left out of these numbers. So the numbers to the right are the greatest, and the numbers to the left on a number line are the least. So out of the numbers that we have here, 35 is furthest to the right, so it is the greatest number. So that would be -35, has the greatest value. Which number has the least value? Well, that would be the number that's all the way to the left, which would be -48. Let's say they asked me to order these. I would do -35 first, then -37, then -44, and -48 would be my least value. Another way you can think of this is you can look at the numbers. Let me erase my crossouts here. You can look at the numbers given, and they are all negatives. So you can think of them in order, like 35 would be the smallest, then 37, 44, and 48 if they weren't negatives. But these are the opposite. So if 35 was the smallest of these numbers in the positive, then it would be the greatest in the negative, because negatives are opposite of positives. Now let's use the less than, greater than, equal, or plus to compare. Plus is not a compare, not used to compare. So this right here, this is a distractor. So oftentimes on multiple choice tests, whether they're my tests, the CFAs, the state tests, if they're having a choice of A, B, C, or D, they might throw in an extra distractor, like a plus, a multiplication, a division, a subtraction, just so they have 4 choices. But it doesn't make sense because that's not used to actually compare. So your answers here are going to be your true choices. So -47 and 29. We've talked extensively in class about how a negative is always smaller than a positive. So -47 is less than 29. How about 0 and -24? Well, 0 is not a positive or a negative. It's right in the middle. It's neutral. But all of the negative numbers are to the left and smaller than 0 as well. So 0 is actually greater than negative 24. Well, then this last example, they're both negative numbers. So I can think of a number line, which is one way of thinking, and my 0 would be here, and it would be negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I would get to my negative 10. So I can see that negative 5 is actually greater than 10 because it's to the right. The other way you can think of it is think of your positive numbers, that 5 is smaller than 10, except these are negative, so these are opposites. So then 5 would be the opposite, which would be greater than 10. Which comparison is true? When they do something like this, make sure you check every single one. If you get to one and you go, oh, this one's true, there could possibly be more than one right answer, but even if there's not, if you find that you think 2 of them are true, you need to go back and look at them carefully and see if you didn't make a mistake. So I'm going to start with A, and A says that negative 62 is greater than 38. Well, I know that a negative is always less than a positive number, so it is not going to be A. B says negative 62 is less than negative 38. Well, they're both negatives, so now I have to think a little deeper, and I have to think about where these numbers would come on a number line. So 0 would be here. I would come to negative 38 before I would come to that negative 26. So negative 38 is actually greater than 62, negative 62. If you want to think about these in terms of opposites, you could say, well, 62, a positive 62 is greater than a positive 38. But now this is opposites, which means it's less than. So this one looks true. B looks true to me, but let me check the rest of them. Negative 62 equals the absolute value of 62. This gets 6th graders all the time, and they go, hey, that's true. What is the absolute value of 62? It's not negative 62, it is 62. And negative 62 and 62 are not equal. If you owe somebody $62, that is not the same thing as having $62 in your pocket. So this is not true. Now for D, this is saying that negative 62 is greater than negative 38. Well, let's see. I do know that in the world of positive numbers, 62 is greater than 38, but this is negative numbers, and it's the opposite, so it would actually be less than, so that is not true. So my final answer, which one is true? B. The table below shows negative integers to represent the lowest temperatures below 0 for 4 days. Which day has a lower temperature than Wednesday? It shouldn't say and Wednesday, it should say than Wednesday. So I need to find Wednesday's temperature. Let's look at the table first though. First thing I have is day. So we have our day of the week right here. Then we have conditions. Now the conditions, snowy, very windy, blizzard, sunny and clear, have nothing to do with the problem. It's extra information. And then we have temperature. So on Wednesday it was very windy, but that we don't need to know, and it was negative 23. So they're asking which day has a lower temperature than Wednesday. So you want something that is lower than negative 23. So when we look through these, we can see there's negative 64, and negative 64 is lower than negative 23. It is colder. There's also negative 19 and negative 1, and these are both warmer than negative 23. So my final answer would be Monday, because Monday is the day that had a lower temperature than Wednesday, and they asked in the question which day. So we need to answer day. Now I have a secondary question down at the bottom. Which day was higher than Wednesday? What day was higher than Wednesday? Well, there are actually 2 days higher than Wednesday, so that would be Friday and Saturday.